107 final radar contact 7¾ miles.
In early 2023, several South African political parties convened at the Emperor's Palace in Johannesburg for a two-day conference to strategize on how to displace the ANC from government leadership. The initiative, known as the Moonshot Pact, was spearheaded by DA leader John Steenhuisen. He proclaimed that the 2024 election would be South Africa's moonshot election, aimed at making a significant leap by ousting the ANC and establishing a new coalition government of like-minded opposition parties. The term moonshot originated from the 1969 Apollo 11 mission, which successfully landed the first humans on the moon. This mission fulfilled US President John F. Kennedy's ambitious goal, set in the early 1960s, to land a man on the moon within the decade, a goal that seemed far-fetched at the time but was ultimately realized. Later rebranded as the Multi-Party Charter, the Moonshot Pact was designed to enable participating parties to gain a greater share of the electoral vote without the need to convert voters from other parties. This was the DA's strategy to ensure post-2024 stability and certainty by forming a coalition of opposition parties determined to take control of the government from the ANC. The parties reportedly received substantial funding to enhance their campaigns, on the condition that they focus on diminishing the ANC's influence across the country. Their objective was to prevent a potential ANC-EFF coalition from seizing power both nationally and in key provinces. Despite their efforts, the coalition garnered just over 30% of the votes, falling short of the majority needed to form a governing coalition. The group includes the Democratic Alliance, ActionSA, IFP, Freedom Front Plus, United Independent Movement, Spectrum National Party, and the Independent South African National Civic Organisation. The UIM, Spectrum, and Isanco were minor players, so I'm not going to focus on them. Nonetheless, this multi-party charter was destined to fail from the beginning due to several factors. The IFP is a shadow of its former self. Under Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi and the late Zulu king, it was a dominant force and the political voice for the Zulu people in the rural heartlands of KZN. The new king has distanced himself from politics and is often entangled in legal disputes, challenging his authority. Thus, the IFP no longer has the pioneering influence it once had. The FF Plus has not seen significant growth and remains similar to its state a decade ago in terms of voter appeal, primarily competing with the DA for the small white minority vote. The ACDP remains consistently low-performing each election cycle, with no prospects for significant growth. ActionSA, on the other hand, was clearly the second-largest party in the charter, based on its performance in the 2021 local government elections. Despite the controversies surrounding its leader's secret payment of 12 million rand for a book about himself, his desire to eliminate retirement, and his contentious stances on immigration and foreign policy, the party had substantial potential. Middle-class black South Africans and liberal white South Africans had high hopes for ActionSA. It was poised to attract a significant portion of DA voters, especially after its impressive performance in the 2021 local government elections. However, it remained largely untested at the national level, and this election season was supposed to be its breakthrough moment until it joined the Moonshot Pact. As the election results came in, Freedom Plus leader Peter Groenewald declared that the dismal performance signaled the end of the multi-party charter. He pointed to a clause stating that if the opposition parties were unable to form a coalition government, the MPC would be dissolved. But Steenhuisen told City Press that it had not been dissolved, and that a meeting with the members would be scheduled at a later date. For the initiative to succeed, more parties needed to join. However, instead of building a viable coalition for a post-2024 South Africa, it seemed the initiative primarily served the interests of one party, the DA. Allegations surfaced that the DA introduced the charter to silence the opposition, preventing them from campaigning in the Western Cape, where the DA holds a majority. This meant that other parties couldn't hold large rallies or conduct extensive door-to-door campaigns to present themselves as alternatives to the DA. John Steenhuisen doubled down on this stance during his interview with the Mail and Guardian.
They should be working with us to be able to bring the ANC below 50%.
I want to play the devil's advocate and say that the DA is in government in the Western Cape and should be open to scrutiny, and everyone should be contesting, and rightfully so. They have every right to contest the DA in that particular province. So why not give them that chance?
They've got the right to contest, but then they must also, we've got the right to squeeze them, which is exactly what I'm doing. Saying I'm putting the pressure back on them, saying you've got the right to say it, but I've got the right to call you out on it as well, and to show the folly of what you're trying to do. You're not weakening the ANC by weakening the DA, you're weakening the opposition. And in this environment, I think it's the most foolhardy thing that you can do. And to show the folly of what you're trying to do, see, by weakening the DA,
didn't need to be contested because it was already under opposition control, and that the ANC was the true adversary. This was disingenuous, as the DA's dominance in the Western Cape over the past 4 general elections made them the primary target for competition. If ActionSA had campaigned vigorously in the province and then doubled down on their 2021 campaign in Gauteng, then this election season would have gained them substantial support. After the disappointing election results, Steenhuisen mentioned that the ActionSA leader had assured him they would secure at least 10% of the national vote. This situation suggests that the DA coerced ActionSA into partnering with them, only to blame them for their poor performance. Even before half of the votes were counted, the DA was already considering a potential partnership with the ANC, and media outlets were abuzz with stories about a DA-ANC coalition. The multi-party charter, in reality, seemed designed to blur the distinctions between the DA and other parties. This raised the question, why vote for ActionSA or any of the parties in the multi-charter when one could directly vote for the DA? Once these parties joined the charter, they were overshadowed by the DA's substantial marketing budget. The DA's true intentions were evident through their aggressive SMS campaign against ActionSA. Instead of targeting the DA's voter base, ActionSA was focused on campaigning against the EFF. One might even say the DA infiltrated ActionSA, considering that many of ActionSA's advisors and top leaders came from the DA. This is the same strategy that was previously employed against these parties, and the DA has used the same tactic for the past decade. I think it's safe to conclude that the DA recognized ActionSA's potential for significant success this election season and lured them into the charter just to neutralize them. Now ActionSA is left alone, struggling to regroup and move forward.
107, final radar contact 7 3/4 miles.